Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome to the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. I am Eric Cain, alongside Rob Lewis, Brent Hubbs, and Austin Price. Big thank you, as always, to our friends over at Exterior Home Solutions for being the presenting sponsor of this show. They've been local and trusted since 1999. If you need help with windows, siding, roofing, garage, whatever the case may be, contact Exterior Home Solutions today at 865-524-5888 or online at exteriorhomesolutions.com. We got a lot to get into today in terms of questions, so we'll jump down into it. Action 0212. How many offensive linemen of the 11 that were listed in Matt Ray's article do the Vols get? And top edge rushing targets the Vols are in good shape with, Austin Price.
Well, if I could tell the future, Hubbard, I'd be making a lot of money. I think they're going to get
more money.
Stop. I don't know. I mean, I think they'll get a couple of tackles. I think they'll get 2 to 3 interior guys. And so I think that Tennessee is, again, positioned well. That doesn't mean they'll land them. They've been positioned well before. It's about closing them out. You can have a good starting pitcher, kind of like Vanderbilt the other day, who delivers the first 6 or 7 innings of the ball game, and then if your bullpen, craps the bed, what happens, right? You've got to finish these out. This next 6 weeks is pivotal with all the unofficials into officials, with 865 live into all the official visits in June. So again, I think Tennessee's positioned well with several of these offensive linemen. Like I said, I would take them to get a couple of tackles and probably 2 to 3 interior guys, and then anything else after that would be great.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from that story is the fact that there are 11 realistic guys that are on that list. Not saying you're going to get, not saying you're going to get 7 of them or 8 of them. You're not going to take that many. But if you did that list a year ago, I don't think you would put 11 realistic guys on a list. I don't think it would be that deep.
Not quality players.
Right. I mean, if you put 11 guys, but not of that ilk. And of those guys, I mean, those were high quality players that he put on that board because they're realistic guys. And I think that's the positive about where they are right now in recruiting. But Austin, you're right. You got to finish.
Are Vysen Lang's struggles something that specifically relates to the center position? Is it something that relates to general offensive line play that he's struggling with? Brent, I think it had more to do with not as much him struggling, just him going up against grown men on that defensive line for the past 6 weeks.
I think he's got to do everything faster. I mean, I think that, when you play inside in there, everything happens quicker. And I think that he's just got to play, a little bit faster than what he played. I think Vysen Lang got better in 15 workouts. Just like I think Larry Johnson got better in 15 workouts out at the tackle position. And so I think the thing is, how far can he come this summer? Where is Vysen Lang at when you get into fall camp? And how much better does he improve? And I think that Glenn Ellerby talked about this, in the middle of spring practice or at the start of spring practice about those guys getting bloodied and how much better they would be for it. I think Vysen Lang is one of those. He got bloodied up. He'll be better for it. He knows exactly what he needs to work on this offseason and this summer. We'll see where he's at when it comes to August. Again, I don't think he was ever going to run away with that job as the backup center. Much as I don't think they were ever going to find a true left guard in 15 practices in the spring. It's about where you're at in fall camp.
Double Nickels on the Dime says you got to choose one, Rob Lewis. If you had to bet your house on it right now, is Chaz Lanier a Vol or a Cat?
I wouldn't choose either one. I mean, I wouldn't bet my house on either of those for starters. Let's get that out of the way. I don't know. What is he going to do? Yeah, it's going to be NIL crazy. And I'm certainly not betting my house on anything Chaz Lanier is doing. I mean, I just don't. I think fans that 3 weeks ago thought he was, a lot that is Tennessee are amateurs. AP, help me out here.
Oh, 100%.
Because he went to high school in Nashville. You think he averaged 19 points a game? You think he's just coming to Tennessee because Dalton Connect had a good year? You think he's just going to put on a Tennessee uniform? You're an amateur. It's an NIL bonanza.
All those people that were like, it's locked, it's done. I mean, how many people did that post? And I kept saying no. I mean, I like where Tennessee was at the time, but
go back and read the War Room 3 weeks ago.
The longer it went, the more money was going to be involved. Now, the question is what does Chaz Lanier do? If it's solely about money, I can tell you where I would pick, and it wouldn't be Tennessee. But
Tennessee would probably be the top 5 if it's about money.
If it's a good solid amount of money with the ability to be developed and all that, then I actually might take Tennessee. But again, I think it boils down to what does he truly want? Is it all about the money? Because if it's all about the money, he's probably not coming here.
Here's another people like fans that when he say, "Oh, well, if he doesn't care, Tennessee's not serious." That's ridiculous. It's Tennessee's. There's a big number on the table for him to come to Tennessee. But Tennessee's not going to give him, $1 billion to come up, to come here. It's not going to happen.
Rick's not going to go with all Dr. Evil.
But for fans to say that Tennessee's not serious, that's ridiculous. There's a big number on the table for him. I'm not saying I know what all the numbers are, but for fans to say if he doesn't come here, Tennessee's not serious, that's not the case at all.
Tennessee's buy-in, Hubbard, and NIL on the basketball side is greater now than it's ever been.
Yeah, it is. And here's the thing about Chaz Lanier. That again, the only comment Chaz Lanier has made is a post saying he's going in the portal. Don't contact me. Right?
That's a great point.
We have no idea what Chaz Lanier is thinking. And here's the thing too: what he was thinking 3 weeks ago, he might be thinking differently after this past week in the G League deal. Okay, does it become more about, hey, I need to develop so that I know where I need to be in the NBA, or hey, I'm not sure what my chances are in the NBA, and I need to get as much money as I can get this year. We don't have any idea where the Chaz Lanier camp is in terms of what's important for them in their next decision, which is, first of all, pulling your name out of the NBA draft hat, which he hasn't done yet. But I can't tell you what Chaz Lanier's thought process is. And I don't know anybody who can, Rob Lewis.
No. And Hubbard, you're saying, and you have people on message boards saying, oh, $500,000. What's it, do you care about winning or do you care about money? Well, I have a couple of kids that are close to Chaz Lanier's age. If somebody was going to give them $500,000 and I was going to, and I was smart enough to tell them to stick it in the bank for 10, 15, 20 years, pretty big difference.
If somebody's getting him for $500,000, you get him on.
No, I'm saying if that's a difference.
$500,000 difference.
I know.
I'm saying the difference is $500,000.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The difference at $500,000 10 years from now.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. I see what you're saying.
Is a lot of money.
Yep. Hubbs' point is the best point. What did they tell him?
Yeah.
Because you're right. If they told him you need to work on defense, maybe going to play for the old defensive master, Rick Barnes, makes a lot more sense now. Or did they say, chances of playing in the NBA are not as high as you would like, and then it's all about getting paid. Because the point Hubbs just made is probably the best point made. Is where is that at? What was he told, and how does it adjust his line of thinking after the evaluation?
Let's go to Vol by Grace. This one is inspired by the Knox News article about the emails that Danny White got from fans upset about the Kelly Harper situation, which, by the way, was just a great read if you haven't read it already. Without naming names, have you received any particular creative hate mail following your reporting of a story? What story generated the response, and what were some of the highlights of the feedback that you received? Anybody want to step up and talk about some hate they got after a story?
Sherry Price didn't even care to hide her name. There's no shame in her game.
Yeah, she just called me.
She just picks up the phone and dials.
I've been fortunate. Don't get me wrong. I've got into some heated debates or arguments with people about topics, but no one's ever said any of that stuff to me that they told Danny White. When Jesse was here, multiple people told him to drink bleach. So no, seriously. People are just unhinged. And again, everybody's a keyboard cowboy behind the username. Yeah. Just the username. Like if you don't have your name on it and you're just Vol fan blank or whatever, it's way easier to be really brave behind the keyboard. And me
and Hubbard, we're old. We've talked about this a lot of time. I have never once. Hubbard's had 10 million people, I'm sure, recognize him. I've had 1,000 people recognize. I've never once had a bad interaction with anybody ever who recognized
not in person.
Not ever.
But there's a difference in person than behind the screen name. Yeah.
Not in a restaurant or walking into Neyland Stadium or on the road. Never one single time have I had a bad
I honestly would respect somebody who could, to my face, tell me I suck more so than, seriously. Like, I mean, I got respect for people that can just speak their mind.
I saw Hubbard get recognized on the strip in Las Vegas. Like, it's
true story. True story.
Eric,
to answer your question, I got to complain about the performance of the podcast on Tuesday morning. So that's the latest one I got.
Hashtag fixed audio.
Yeah, I got a message about the Tuesday podcast. So that's the most recent one I've had.
Probably because the host was back after two shows gone. That's probably the complaint.
I'm not going into details. I just got a complaint email, Eric Cain.
Did they tell you to rot in hell and your piece of crap?
No, it was basically they were implied that we had wasted their time. Was just some mind-numbing discussion that made no sense, that really offered no opinion on something.
Well,
so
go check out Locked On Vols, and I'll waste your time 30 more minutes if you need another one. Let's go to San Swin 22-33. South Carolina is a team that probably needs a game this weekend to be 100% in, coming off getting manhandled by overrated fraud Charlie Condon. Do the Gamecocks have enough pitching to survive the friendly confines in the middle of May? I mean, in my opinion, no. South Carolina's team ERA, I think, is 9th in the SEC, and their starting weekend rotation's kind of been in flux. They took their best bullpen arm and started him last weekend, and he pitched really well. So I would imagine that he'll probably get the start in Game 3 of this series again, and that's taking one of your best bullpen. It's kind of like the debate with Tennessee right now. It's like, why don't they just start Nate Snead? Well, that makes a whole lot of sense, right? But, he came in and got 2 outs on 3 pitches and got a save on Saturday last weekend. So I like to have that option at the end of games, in my opinion. It's kind of where South Carolina is with this guy. But not enough pitching a lot of times in this league towards the end of the season. It just kind of shows, and those ERAs are inflated. So to answer your question, Sam, I would say no. I don't think South Carolina has enough pitching to hang with the Tennessee offense that we've seen all year long, minus the ebbs and flows the last 2 series, 3 series, or whatnot.
I'll say this: it's a reminder of how good Todd Helton was for this baseball program a long time ago. When you could come in and get a save on Friday night and then get the ball on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon and can throw a complete game on Sunday. I mean, I've seen Todd get 2 wins in a weekend, which is pretty crazy. That's for wild. Starting pitching. You don't have guys who can bounce back like that. But that's the way Todd was. You could bounce, hey, I need you to start on Sunday. Okay. You care to throw 6 pitches on Friday night and get the save? Sure. I'm good with that.
Or Brand, it was, let me get the save on Friday and then I'm going to start on Sunday.
Yes. I mean, it wasn't, we're going to ask you to start. It's give me the ball. I'm starting on Sunday.
Yeah. And have a couple of homers while you're done.
Yeah. I don't remember it like it was the back of my hand, but it literally was like, I mean, it was like he was the best kid on your Little League team.
Absolutely.
But it was like the SEC. It was like the College World Series, and it was still like the best. It was like Todd Hill was the best kid, like on your Little League team. Like pinch hit, throw an inning. Next stop Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I mean, obviously the whole baseball world was different back then in terms of all the off-season training that you were doing and all the precision and the analytics and everything that you did. It was a bit more of let's go out to the community ballpark and let's just ball play, and that's what Todd did, and that's why he's one of my all-time favorites to ever watch, because nobody was more competitive than that guy. And Rob, you're right, he was the best player on your Little League team. He just happened to be doing it in the SEC on the way to the College World Series.
Yeah, no pitching labs back in the mid-90s, and
no hitting labs, no pitching labs, just hit it, field it, throw it. Let's play.
Let's go to March Madness Vols 37. Kind of a loaded question here, but we'll make our way through it. Where would you put Eric Berry on the list of all-time Vol greats? How would you describe the kind of teammate that he was, and how much respect did he command as a leader on the defense? And then secondly, who are your top 5 Vol greats of players in your generation? We don't have to go all the way around the room, but Austin, answer this Eric Berry question because you guys are just kind of linked there. Where is he on your list of all greats?
I mean, I think he's top 10 for sure. As far as, in my era, these top 5, But again, I think he's someone that that others wanted to emulate, and the way he worked, the way he trained. I mean, he did everything you could imagine, within the framework of the football program to be successful. And the guy he was built different.
We'll go to Pine. Does basketball and baseball team success make the football offseason fly by for you and the fans? Brandon, obviously flies by for me because I cover baseball on the daily, but I got to imagine just how good Tennessee basketball and baseball have been together the last couple of years. Absolutely. It's a huge bridge to football season. I mean, there's still a couple of dead months there in summer, but it makes it go by really, really quickly when you're looking at Elite Eights and College World Series.
Well, no doubt. And I think you got to throw in the transfer portal too, the window that has become, the month of May in football and basketball. And Rob, certainly with the basketball transfer portal window, basketball used to kind of disappear once March Madness ended and you picked it back up, you might have a summer update here and there, but those guys practice year round now. But the portal changes it dramatically, and the fact that Rick Barnes has recruited all the summer to bring in a guy in August sometimes as well carries a lot of basketball topic. It's in football changes in June with the way recruiting's done now. So I mean, I think all those sports have become much more year round now with the portal and the way the recruiting cycle's done.
Well, it's just, I mean, Hubbard, it's not remotely the same.
No.
It's not, May, you mentioned the portal, but the high school basketball recruiting is just, I don't want to say it's nothing, but it's not, it's been minimized to an incredible degree because of the transfer portal. Because, this month it's all about the portal. In college basketball, and it's, not as much in football, but it's incredible to me what the portal has done to high school basketball recruiting. Outside of like a couple of huge names, just it's a shadow of what it was.
Second part to the question here from Pine. We got a couple of questions a little bit about this, AP. With NIL amounts continuing to go up, will some SEC schools decide to focus all their NIL on one sport to be competitive? If yes, won't that make it harder to be an all-everything school?
It could. Not everybody's going to have, just a gross amount of money. And again, I think eventually it all dries up for everybody. It's easy. It's easy to say, oh yeah, we'll keep doing it. But when you're asking your donors to be the ones that foot the bill, and and hey, guess what? We need you also help build those new bathrooms in the lower third deck or whatever. Yes, I think that there's only so much money to go around. I think Tennessee's obviously in a fairly good spot. Their donors have stepped up big. So I don't think they're really in that world right now. But with a few schools potentially you have to go that route, sure. And I do think if that happens, it obviously hurts the overall athletic department.
Well, I think the question right now, and I don't know the answer to this, I just wonder this aloud, is how many schools are not already doing that to some degree?
True. Okay? And you just don't know.
I don't know. Where's Arkansas's basketball NIL versus their football NIL? I have no idea the answer to that question. Same for Kentucky, right? Where's Georgia's basketball NIL compared to their football NIL stuff, right? Same at Florida. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know where everybody's, all sports commitment is to, from an NIL standpoint. I'm sure some schools, Rob, are. It's not equal across the board.
No, and you guys both. Hubbard, AP, Eric. You guys. Everybody talks to a lot of people. I know you've heard. I know you guys have heard this. I've heard it. A lot of old school donors are like, I'm fine. I'll write a check to build buildings, whatever. I don't like paying for players. I hear that. Do you guys hear that? I don't. I'm paying for players and maybe not the right. I don't like the NIL stuff. I'll donate for this or that. And I think there's we're 2 or 3 years in. I think a lot of collectives are probably starting to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think it goes back to Austin's point. Like, where's the line?
Yeah, AP.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, when does somebody say, you know what, I've done this for 3 or 4 years now?
Yeah,
guys.
I just gave this last year, and we
Yeah,
won 8 games.
You know,
what's
and I
it
don't
worth?
know where that's at, which is why the revenue share is still out there on the table as much as it is.
Well, Nico is the ultimate litmus test. I mean, everybody, because of the lawyer out in California that did what he did, like everybody kind of knows what Nico is doing NIL wise. Well, I mean, if Nico plays well, then everybody's like, oh, I see what we did there. Look, we did that. We got that result. Okay, let's do it again. If Nico doesn't play well, it goes the other direction. So,
Sure.
Again, I think a lot of it depends on the success you have.
We got plenty more questions to get into, but first, let's get a word from our friends, our presenting sponsor over at Exterior Home Solutions.
Severe weather can strike at any time in East Tennessee, and Mother Nature can do severe damage to the first and most important line of defense that you and your family have against Mother Nature, and that is your roof. Whenever she strikes, make sure that you call the people that I call. Make sure you trust the people that I trust, and that's my friends at Exterior Home Solutions, because they're more than friends, they're truly family.
That phone number is 865-524-5888, or you can visit them online at exteriorhomesolutions.com. Local and trusted since 1999. It's who we trust, who Brent Hubbs trusts over here at Volquest.com. A fun one here. This is from UtChampions. Tennessee defensive line Mount Rushmore. He said, here's mine. Little, White, Henderson, and Akens. That's pretty good 4 right there, Brent. Would you make a change to that 4? Of course, Derek Barnett is out there looming as well.
Well, I mean, Akens, White, and Leonard, to me, all 3 have to be on there. I think that's three givens. Your 4th one, I mean, I think you could probably make some debates there. I think John Henderson makes a lot of sense. Obviously, I'm trying to think back through 1,800 years ago. I mean, that's probably where I would go. It would be those guys, But again, I think you can argue it and debate it for forever. Other than, I mean, Doug Akens and Reggie White are Hall of Famers. They're on there. Then it becomes a bit of a debate after that. I'm a huge Leonard Little fan, so I'm a little bit biased on that deal because I thought he could wreck a series as well as anybody. Barnett did that. And then John Henderson certainly did that as well. John Henderson was different than what we've seen out of a lot of defensive tackles for sure.
And I'm just going to say, if you're young, if you're like Eric Cain's age and you never watched the black and white NFL films, go back and watch Doug Akens.
Oh, violent, angry man. It's like AP like playing with his daughters after school, like in an NFL game. It's just throwing people around.
It's just like a big angry bear. It's
Would you guys change any of that 4, or would you guys roll with that 4, AP, Rob?
I mean, I didn't see Doug Akens in college. I mean, so I don't pretend to know, but I've seen lots of. I mean, if you go back and watch Doug Akens and listen to Steve Sable, and if you get 15, 20 minutes, if you're a Tennessee fan, you'll enjoy it.
One of 3 Tennessee Vols to be a Hall of Famer in both college and NFL.
If you're 20-something years old and you ever watched Doug Akens, take 10 minutes this afternoon, kids.
All right, let's go to Forever Faithful. Football or basketball-wise, who's the most relentless coach you've seen at Tennessee? Relentless, whether it would be recruiting or just the everyday job, the amount of time that they spend doing so. Rob, you want to kick this one off?
I mean, just golly. I mean, like, what you mean, like in practice? I mean, we never watched him on the road or rode in a helicopter with him. Remember Ed Orgeron on the practice field was pretty intense. I mean, that's he's got a lot of sound bites out there, but that stuff is pretty real.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at it, I mean, in different ways. I mean, Rick Barnes is very different as soon as he steps off the line on the practice floor. So if you're talking about practice only, I mean, Rick Barnes has got to be in the conversation in terms of intensity because there's no day off there. I mean, Rodney Garner on the practice field is absolutely relentless. from a coaching standpoint. I mean, coaching everything, and Rodney, particularly pre-NIL era in the younger days. I mean, he was AP. He was the recruiter everybody in this league talked about for forever. I mean, so he's got to be in that conversation, right?
Yeah, I think you guys are missing the obvious answer. It's Pat Summitt.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, you go to a practice. If anybody ever had it, and you guys didn't, I did, the chance to see a Pat Summitt practice. There were, I mean, it didn't matter. I mean, she almost sent Shamiqua Holtzclaw home because Shamiqua couldn't just handle the intensity of practice as a freshman. This was, quote, the female version of Michael Jordan coming out of high school, and she almost didn't make it to the first game at Tennessee because of how practice was under Pat Summitt. I mean, her intensity, and we all know the story about recruiting Michelle Marciniak. She goes into labor on the way home, so she didn't take many days off, that's for sure.
And I mean, you mentioned Rick, and we've all seen guys. Everybody has seen coach, yell at kids, curse at kids or whatever. I've been to dozens, maybe. I mean, I don't know, about hundreds of practices, but I've never heard Coach Barnes swear once, and I've heard it just like break kids down at a level that I've ever seen. And he's like the meanest kindergarten gym teacher.
Yeah, I mean, if I were playing for him at some point, I would would you please say a curse word? Will you drop the F? I mean,
drop the F-bomb one time.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel this tall, and you scolded me, in a manner that makes me even feel smaller because you just haven't berated me verbally with stuff. Now, old Rick Barnes would have, but that's not the current model of Rick Barnes. But he could still absolutely rip you to shreds in the nicest way, in the nicest verbiage possible.
But it's not like Sunday school. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
no. It just doesn't involve curse words.
No, this doesn't involve curse words. But you'll crawl back to the dorm room after it's over, maybe.
That's how Hubs does us too.
That's right. I'm big at that.
I watched him go at Grant Ramey one day, and he didn't even say a word.
Well, that's why Grant's not on the podcast today.
The complaint was actually about Grant, so that's why Grant's not on here. Andrew Akens says, did Tennessee start the same 4+ Mincey/Crawford all of 2022 on the offensive line? Is that common, and would that bode well for this team given the lack of experience behind starters? AP, they did play both Mincey and Crawford at left tackle the entire 2022 because the other 4 on the offensive line were set with, of course, May Spraggins, Wright, and Jerome Carvin. I think Tennessee would have liked to have played one, and it would have been Mincey because he was more physically gifted, but it just never materialized. And then in terms of would that bode well for this team, I guess maybe they're talking about left guard because there's not a solution there. But I think Tennessee's played multiple offensive linemen, and that they're not afraid to do that.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a rotation at certain positions where they don't have a locked-in starter.
Yeah,
kind of like play best available. Hey, both these guys will get a look. We'll get them into the flow. It's like a team that has 2 quarterbacks. We'll play them both and then figure out who's got the mojo and then go from there. I think that's probably what they'll do at left guard too. I'd be shocked if it's just a locked-in guy. I think it could be a combination of Lampley Carrick or Umarov Lampley or whatever. I think that you're going to see, a rotation there.
What's interesting is they, by design, rotated when they were at UCF. They played 6 or 7 linemen because of the pace of play. They wanted to rotate by design. They have not by design rotated as much here. That it's been more out of necessity, Eric, than it has been by true design. Which I think that'll be more the case here. It'll be a rotation probably at the guard spot, but I don't know that the other spots will rotate as they did, when they arrived from UCF.
Yeah, and if you are, rotating by design a little bit, I remember, I guess it was 2020, 2019, one of those years, Tennessee was playing, it was 2020, it's the season they lost. Tennessee was playing Kentucky, and Tennessee drives down the length of the field with Javonte Spraggins at left guard or right guard. Tennessee scores a touchdown. Next series out, he's not in there. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, if you're going to rotate, at least keep the guy in there that just went down the field for you. But we'll see. At left guard, they've got like 3 or 4 guys who have played that spot before, and so if nobody emerges as a starter, I'm sure Jackson Lampley and Andre Keurig and maybe Dane Davis and then maybe Sham as well. We'll get a look at left guard as well. Let's go to Matt for Rocky Top. What is Joshua Joseph's weight now? AP, has he gotten up to 245 pounds yet?
I don't believe he's gotten that big, no. But I do think he's bigger than he was at this point last year. I would say he's somewhere like whatever they had him listed at probably wasn't accurate last year. I would say he's probably 235 to 240. I mean, he's gotten significantly bigger. I've watched him, walk through the complex in the last, month or so. And I mean, he's a lot bigger and I think a lot more buy-in too. And you're going into year 3, both on and off the field.
ImissDenariousMoore, what do you most hope to see between now and fall workouts for this football team? Thinking about health updates, weight loss, weight gain, etc. Brent Hubbs, anything off the field or in the weight training that you hope to see happen before fall camp?
Well, you want to hear some continued positive reports about where Peyton Lewis is physically, where Cam Seldon is.
Yeah, he's ahead of the base. You want to hear he's ahead of the base.
Yeah, whatever that means, continued positive feedback from Brew McCoy. I don't know that you're going to sit here and go, boy, this guy's running away with the left guard job this summer. You know what I mean? It's just not how it's going to happen. So I don't know that you're looking for anything specific other than those guys' health, and their return from injury. And what you don't want to hear in July is you don't want to hear about tender hamstrings in July heading into fall camp. That's what you don't want to hear from the middle of July on. You don't want to hear about anybody dealing with a muscle pull like the way Jalen Wright did 2 years ago and that adversely affect him. So you want to make sure you don't have any of that stuff. And no news in July is good news for Tennessee football.
CMD says, I've noticed that AP has been very consistent in his prediction that Arian Carter starts alongside Keenan Pili at linebacker this fall. Believe he implied it as early as game 1. What is the reasoning there, Austin? Obviously, disclaimer, I mean, they're going to play 4 guys at least. It's not just going to be 2 locked-in guys. But AP, your reasoning for Arian Carter?
Yeah, I think that, I just think he's the guy that has the most upside talent. And I think that's who they'll pair with Pili. T. Lander is pushing, but I think T. Lander is someone, who, is going to play a ton, but I just think it'll be Carter again, providing he has a strong fall camp. He wasn't here for spring ball. And I think all of that, hurts him, but I think he can overcome it.
Well, don't forget where he was as a freshman. I mean, he was emerging as a freshman before the injury, playing in critical situations. I mean, they put him out there in a regular rotation as a freshman in key spots in games. I mean, you go back and look. I guess it was the A&M game. He's in pass coverage in the red zone. I mean, because they had complete confidence in him, 5-6 games into his college career. So he's got plenty of talent. It's a matter about getting healthy, staying healthy. And completely grasping what Coach Inge wants him to do, but that's going to be within the framework of a system he already knows.
Rockytopmojo, with access to recruits, Austin, do you guys ever play a role in the recruitment process? Are there rules out there in place that you have to follow?
No, I don't play a role. I mean, my role. I mean, a lot of kids do think that like we're an extension of the school. Like, I don't have it. Like, what's up, coach? I'm not a coach. But like we just, kind of build relationships. They know, hey, we cover Tennessee. Hey, we, Rusty covers Georgia or Tim Watts covers Alabama. They understand kind of who we all are. But as far as the role, no, I mean, we just kind of, build relationships. Kids tell us stuff. Sometimes they don't tell us things. A lot of it just depends. And so it's more just relationship building.
Then a second question here for Rob Lewis. What grade would you give Coach Caldwell to date for staff hires and for recruiting?
I don't have a lot of insight into that. I'm not going to pretend like it.
It looks like, I mean, she's been very active in the transfer portal, Brent. She had to go get more athletic on this roster to play the style of basketball she wants to play.
And I think when you look at them in the portal, that's the first thing that jumps out at you, Austin, is they've gotten more athletic, which was a must. She's coming into a league she knows very little about. And so when she put her staff together, she put SEC ties on her staff. to help her understand recruiting, scouting, and all those things. So I think she's done a good job in terms of assembling it. How quick does it pay dividends, Austin? I don't know, but I'm sure she looked at that roster she inherited, and the first thing that jumped out to her is, I've got to get more athletic. And then she took a look around at the league and said, I better get some league influence on my staff, and she's done that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, she's got a girl out there in Lachey Dwyer who she'd still love to add, transfer from Miami. But Lachey, I think the one thing that Coach Caldwell is going to inherit, especially with transfers right now, is, well, you already got that point guard. I want to start. And whereas like Coach Caldwell's like, hey, listen, we're going to rotate so much, it's going to be like you are a starter because of the style of play. And for some kids, that's a hard grasp because they're used to.
You also don't have evidence of it. No offense to Marshall.
There you go.
You don't have proof of that.
100%. And what did Josh Heupel need when he first got here? To get to the field and to show. Yeah. And so she's got to get to the court and to show. And so you are in this weird time where, like, you don't have anything to prove. And so you're asking a kid to take a leap of faith. And if you're a transfer, you're already transferring for a reason. Do you really want to take a leap of faith on something you're not sure about? So I think the fact she's had some success in the portal is good. I think, she just got to find a way to add another body or two that can help fill out the roster. But I think she's getting it to where she likes it.
And then why do you guys think that Coach Fulmer never took another head coaching job?
I don't think he had an opportunity. Once he was fired from here, I don't think he had an opportunity for another head coach to take another coaching job. Not at the level he was going to take.
Not at this level. I was going to say not an equivalent.
Yeah. Not and in terms of as an assistant, he was looking to make a move if the situation hadn't occurred in '92 where he became the interim here and then ultimately ended up getting the job at that point. Had that situation not came about, Philip Fulmer would have become a head coach somewhere else and gone off and been a head coach somewhere else because he was ready to be a head coach and wasn't going to stay around for however many more years to be an assistant coach.
Run through the T. Who are 5 football targets that are committing soon to watch out for? I know one this month is from the Oklahoma offensive lineman we seem to be in good shape with. Who is next after that, and who are some other ones that have some dates in mind?
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Ogumoro is going to commit next Tuesday, I think it is, the 21st. And Jalen Matthews will commit on June 3rd. We know that one. Charles House reiterated with Matt. I know, the girl 24/7 said that he might put you back, but he reiterated to Matt after that he was sticking with June 22nd. Outside of that, I mean, not a whole lot of dates are known at this point, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there.
Go Vols 182 says the Prince of Bradley County is worried about our facility rankings, 19th in the country. Is this something that we should worry about in this current landscape?
Who's ranking that, and what do you base it on? Does Clemson get a benefit because they have a slide in their complex? Does that enhance their facilities? I mean, I mean, listen. And
how far down? My question is, how far down is LSU after they spent all that money doing a new locker room where they have beds that can pull out and go to sleep? That was just a couple of years ago. I'm sure they're down the pecking order now because it's just
it's about the money, baby. They don't
ever change.
Well, and I'm not denigrating any. I mean, how much did they factor in, like the women's softball stadium or, the men's, the diving locker room? What,
yeah.
What were the criteria?
Well, and to answer the question about where you think it is right now, Tennessee's got $400+ million of renovations going on. Okay. But they're all for the fan experience. I mean, nothing in the South Concourse renovations benefits the student athlete at Neyland Stadium.
Nope.
There's nothing there for the student athlete. Lindsey Nelson Stadium, they're not doing anything in this next phase for the student athlete. That's for the fan experience. For the student athlete, it's the expansion of the Anderson Training Center, which is at like year 7 now, right? That it looks. I mean, like they got 2 guys up there moving some plywood around. There's no pace on that deal. But that tells you where things are right now.
You literally could have it, Hubbard. You literally could be a crate operator who got your license when you graduate from high school, and you can work and retire and go to the UT campus and work on some athletic project every day of your life.
Hey, Bobby, what are we going to do this week? Let's move that pile of sand from there.
And let's not forget, every end of July, got to start working on parking.
I mean, think about it. I mean, they're building. They're going to have the nurses building built between the time that they started the expansion or the add-on for the Anderson Training Center, and they built a brand new nursing building on campus. They're going to get the South Concourse basically done before they get the expansion done. And again, I'm not joking. I just think that's where it's at right now. Is if you're going to build buildings and you're going to do brick and mortar stuff, it's because it's needed for the fan experience. And Lindsey Nelson Stadium is only 2 decades past due doing something for the fan experience, right? Same thing at Neyland Stadium. So those are things for the fan. I think that's where you're going to spend your brick and mortar at, is for fan experience, because premium seating, you're going to get your money back. You're going to be able to pay for some of that stuff there. Otherwise, I think it's going to be about, all right, what are we going to do for the student athlete? Because we might be paying them $20 million, depending on what the rev share looks like. So what's more important, the outdoor fire pits or having the $20 million to pay the student athlete? That's the current landscape of college athletics. That's on the horizon potentially for ADs to make decisions on.
And you guys have all been everywhere. I will say that, I mean, with the influx of money, and even in the last 10, 15 years, like the best, like the number one practice facility in the SEC, the difference between that and like the 8th best practice facility in the SEC, that it's like that, today,
right,
where 10 years ago,
sure,
there was a mile in between them. But now everybody's got money now. Everybody, if you're at the level Tennessee's at, competing at this level, everybody's got great facilities.
A lot of great questions here today. Can't thank you enough for sending those in here for the mailbag edition of the Volquest podcast every Thursday right here at Volquest.com. Of course, on the Volquest YouTube channel on the General's Quarters. If you're watching on YouTube right now, put in this promo code. You can get a discount to join us over at Volquest.com. It's a great time. We got baseball heading into postseason play after the regular season wraps up this weekend. Transfer portal news all the time. Tennessee football recruiting. Basketball news. There's never a dull moment over at Volquest.com. Appreciate you guys as always. For Austin Price, Rob Lewis, Brent Hubbs, I am Eric Cain. Thanks so much to Exterior Home Solutions for giving us sponsorship of this show, 865-524-5888, and online at exteriorhomesolutions.com. I appreciate you guys as always for listening to us here on the Volquest Mailbag Podcast.